Ryan Cooper had always believed in love. He wasn't a hopeless romantic, but he was a man who valued commitment, trust, and loyalty. At 35, he had built a solid life for himself, one that many would envy. A stable career as a software engineer at a top-tier tech firm in Los Angeles. A beautiful home in a quiet suburban neighborhood, and most importantly, a stunning, intelligent wife he adored. Emily Cooper was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went. At 30, she still had the youthful glow of someone in their 20s, with wavy auburn hair, piercing green eyes, and a smile that had once been the highlight of Ryan's day. She had once worked in marketing but left her job to pursue a freelance career that gave her more flexibility. More time for herself, more time for their marriage. Or so Ryan had thought. Their relationship had been passionate in the beginning. Every touch, every whispered word, every stolen glance had been filled with desire and admiration. Over the years, they had settled into a comfortable rhythm, weekend getaways, cozy movie nights, and deep conversations that lasted until the early hours of the morning. He trusted her. He had never once questioned her faithfulness until now. It all started a few months ago when Emily signed up for a gym membership. At first, it seemed like a normal decision. She had always been health conscious, but lately she had taken it to another level. She wasn't just working out. She was obsessed. She spent hours at the gym, often returning home late. Her phone was suddenly off limits, always face down, locked with a new passcode he didn't know. She had started buying expensive workout clothes, something she had never been interested in before. And then there was the way she talked about him, Brandon Reed, her personal trainer. Ryan had never met him in person, but he had heard the name enough times to feel like he knew him. A former college athlete turned fitness instructor, Brandon was everything Ryan wasn't. Tall, broad-shouldered, confident, and always surrounded by admiring women at the gym. Emily spoke about him too often, her tone changing slightly whenever his name was mentioned. It was subtle, but Ryan noticed. At first, he had brushed it off. Maybe she just admired the way he trained. Maybe it was nothing, but deep down, an unsettling feeling began to take root in his chest. One night, as they lay in bed, he turned to her. "You've been spending a lot of time at the gym lately," he said casually, his voice light but probing. Emily didn't even hesitate. "Yeah, I guess I have. It feels good, you know. Like I'm doing something for myself." He nodded, studying her face. "And Brandon? You mentioned him a lot." For the briefest moment, something flickered in her expression. Something unreadable. Then she laughed. "He's a great trainer. He pushes me harder than I ever thought I could go." Something about the way she said it made his stomach tighten. But he didn't push further. Not yet. The following weeks did nothing to ease his mind. Emily became even more distant. When he reached for her at night, she would turn away. Their conversations grew shorter, filled with empty pleasantries rather than the warmth they once had. Ryan found himself staying up late, staring at the ceiling, wondering what had changed. Then one evening, the first real sign appeared. Emily had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. Ryan wasn't the type to invade her privacy, but when it buzzed with a message, his eyes instinctively flicked to the screen. A single text from a number saved under Brandon Dot. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for the next time." Ryan's world tilted. His heart slammed against his ribs. His breath caught in his throat. Last night? Emily had told him she was at the gym late, but his hands trembled as he stared at the message. His mind raced. He could ignore it, pretend he never saw it. He could confront her immediately, demand the truth, or he could find out for himself. A plan began to form. Ryan would get his answers, one way or another. Ryan sat in his home office, staring blankly at his laptop screen. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, but his mind was elsewhere, replaying the message from Brandon over and over again. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for the next time." Every word felt like a dagger sinking into his gut. His hands clenched into fists as a storm of emotions raged inside him. Anger, disbelief, pain. How could she do this? How long had this been going on? Had she ever loved him at all? His heart screamed for confrontation, but his mind urged caution. If he exploded now, she would lie. She would twist the truth. He needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. and he knew exactly how to get it. The next evening, Ryan told Emily he had a late work meeting. He watched her reaction carefully. She barely acknowledged him, too busy fixing her hair in the mirror. "Okay, babe. Don't wait up for me either. I might stay for an extra session at the gym." Her voice was too casual, too rehearsed. Ryan forced a smile and kissed her on the cheek. "Have fun." As soon as she left, he grabbed his car keys and followed at a safe distance. His pulse pounded as he trailed her sedan through the streets of Los Angeles, his headlights dimmed to avoid suspicion. She didn't go to the gym. Instead, she pulled into a small, upscale hotel on the outskirts of town. Ryan parked a block away, his hands shaking as he watched her step out of the car. Dressed in tight leggings and a crop top, she looked more like she was going on a date than to a workout session. His stomach twisted as Brandon appeared from the lobby, greeting her with a grin before wrapping an arm around her waist. She didn't hesitate. She leaned into him. She kissed him. The sight burned into Ryan's brain like a brand. He should have felt rage, but at that moment, all he felt was numbness, like the world had drained of color, like he was watching someone else's life crumble instead of his own. He grabbed his phone and started recording. Every second, every touch, every betrayal. Ryan sat in his car for what felt like hours, staring at the footage. The proof was there, cold, irrefutable. His wife was cheating on him, not just emotionally but physically. His jaw tightened. He could storm into that hotel right now, catch them in the act, make a scene. But that wasn't his style. Number Emily and Brandon weren't just going to get caught, they were going to pay. Ryan spent the next few days carefully plotting his next move. Anger simmered beneath his skin, but he forced himself to remain calm. He needed to be smart. If he played this right, Emily wouldn't just feel guilty, she'd regret ever betraying him. The first step was collecting more evidence. It wasn't enough to have one video. He needed timestamps, patterns, undeniable proof that could destroy her web of lies. Using a spare phone, he installed a tracking app on Emily's car. Every time she went out, he could see exactly where she was going. And just as he suspected, the hotel visits weren't a one-time thing. Twice a week, like clockwork, she met Brandon in the same place. Step 2 was baiting her into revealing her true nature. One evening, Ryan set up a romantic dinner at home. Candles, wine, soft music. Everything she used to love. He wanted to see if she would lie to his face. When she walked through the door, her eyes flickered with surprise. "What's all this?" Ryan smiled. "Just thought we could have a nice night together. It's been a while." Emily hesitated, glancing at her phone before slipping it into her purse. "That's sweet, but I'm really tired from the gym." She was lying. Ryan knew exactly where she had been an hour ago. He poured her a glass of wine, his fingers steady despite the fury bubbling inside him. "You've been working out a lot lately. Brandon must be a great trainer." Emily took a sip, her lips curving slightly. "Yeah, he is. He really pushes me." Ryan stared into her eyes, searching for even a flicker of guilt. There was none. She had no idea that he knew. That night, the sky was shrouded in heavy dark clouds. Rain pattered softly on the hood of Ryan's car as he sat in the shadows, his heart pounding against his chest. In front of him, the gym had closed over an hour ago, yet the lights in the private training area were still on. Only one car remained in the empty parking lot, Emily's black SUV. Ryan felt the anger boiling in his veins. He held his breath, slowly opening the car door and stepping out, his sneakers making faint noises against the wet pavement. The air was cold, yet the burning rage inside him made everything feel suffocatingly hot. He moved closer to the large glass windows of the gym, staying hidden in the darkness. From his vantage point, he could see inside. The dimly lit room pulsed with heat. Emily leaned back on the workout bench, her bare feet resting on the cold wooden floor. She was wearing a tight workout top, her curves accentuated under the soft glow of the lights. Her hair was slightly disheveled, her eyes glistening with a dangerous mix of desire and excitement. Brandon stood before her, his muscular body looming over her. Sweat still glistened on his tanned skin. One of his hands was planted firmly on the bench beside her, while the other slowly traced up her thigh. "Are you sure?" Brandon's voice was low, his breath hot against her skin. Emily smirked, biting her lower lip, her gaze teasing. She wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him down, whispering something into his ear. Words Ryan couldn't hear, but he already knew their meaning. The soft rustling of fabric, the sound of labored breathing filled the air. Brandon growled softly like a predator finally unleashed. He dipped his head, his lips claiming her neck, urgent and hungry. His hand tightened around her waist, pulling her closer against him. Slow down, Emily moaned, but she wasn't resisting. Instead, her hands dug into his shoulders, urging him on. Ryan felt his entire body freeze, his fist clenched so tightly that his nails dug into his palms. What he was witnessing wasn't just betrayal, it was a mockery of everything he believed in. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Brandon lifted Emily onto the workout bench, his face buried into the softness of her skin, his hands exploring every inch of her body. Her soft moans mixed with the rhythmic patter of rain on the rooftop. "You're so strong." Her voice was breathy, laced with pleasure and anticipation. "You love it." Brandon smirked, his eyes filled with satisfaction as he gazed down at the woman who belonged to another man. Heavy breathing, the friction of bodies, the unmistakable sounds of betrayal filled the enclosed space. Ryan stood frozen, his heart being torn apart. He wanted to charge in, to smash Brandon's face, to grab Emily and demand to know why she did this. But he didn't. He wouldn't let his rage control him. This pain, this humiliation, he would turn it into something else. His revenge had just begun. Ryan's entire world collapsed. He stepped back from the window, his breathing uneven. Everything in front of him blurred, not because of the rain, but because of the fury-filled tears welling in his eyes. The betrayal wasn't just real, it was unfolding right before him like a twisted nightmare. He turned away and walked back to his car, his fists clenched so tightly that his nails dug into his skin. His mind spun in chaos. The pain in his chest burned like an uncontrollable wildfire, but beneath it lurked something even more dangerous, pure, unrelenting rage. He could storm in right now. He could yank Brandon away from Emily, land a punch hard enough to knock him unconscious. He could scream at Emily, demand an explanation, force her to face what she had done. But no, that wouldn't be enough. This wasn't just a momentary lapse in judgment. This was premeditated betrayal, planned and carried out in a place he had trusted her. And for that, they would both pay. Ryan sat inside his car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His jaw clenched, his mind sinking into the dark corners he never thought he would step into. A plan started to take shape. He wouldn't lose everything. He wouldn't let them walk away unscathed. If Emily wanted to play games, he would show her just how dangerous they could become. The rain continued to fall, masking the storm brewing inside him. Ryan took a deep breath, slowly exhaled, and turned the key in the ignition. It was time to act. Ryan spent the next few days in silence. He barely spoke to Emily, barely looked at her. Every moment around her felt like a lie, and yet he played his role perfectly. He smiled when she did, kissed her forehead when she leaned in, just as he always had. But inside, the storm raged on. At night, while she slept beside him, he stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing through possibilities. His revenge couldn't be impulsive. It had to be precise and calculated, just like her betrayal. And so, he planned. First, he gathered evidence. He installed a hidden camera in their bedroom, the living room, and even inside her car. He needed proof, not just for himself, but for what was to come next. Then he made contact. Brandon's wife. She had no idea, of course. Ryan had found her through social media, scrolling through happy family photos of her and Brandon. They had a son together, a boy no older than 5. It was almost poetic. Ryan sent her an anonymous message, a simple one. "Your husband is cheating on you. If you want proof, meet me." It didn't take long for her to reply. Desperation dripped from her words. She needed to know the truth. Ryan smiled. This was only the beginning. The cafe was quiet that afternoon, the gentle hum of conversations filling the air. Ryan sat near the window, fingers wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. His eyes remained fixed on the entrance, waiting. Then she walked in. Brandon's wife, Samantha. She was beautiful in a way that was effortless, the kind of beauty that didn't need enhancements. But today her face was pale, her eyes restless, scanning the room until they landed on him. Ryan raised a hand slightly, signaling her over. She hesitated, then walked toward him, clutching her purse tightly against her chest. As she sat down, her lips parted, as if searching for the right words, but nothing came out. He slid a small envelope across the table. "It's all in there." Samantha's hands trembled as she reached for it. She opened it carefully, pulling out the printed photos. Images of Brandon and Emily tangled together in the gym's private training room. The intimacy undeniable. Her breathing became shallow and she clenched her jaw, blinking back tears. "This can't be real," she whispered, shaking her head. "It is." Ryan's voice was calm, but his eyes were cold. "I thought you should know." She inhaled sharply, then exhaled, her fingers tightening around the photos before placing them back into the envelope. For a moment, she just sat there, processing the weight of it all. Then finally, she met Ryan's gaze. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ryan leaned forward, his tone deliberate. "Revenge." Samantha's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't protest. She understood. She had been betrayed just as he had, and now it was time to make them pay. Samantha sat in silence for a long moment, her fingers still gripping the envelope, as if it might disappear. Ryan could see the storm in her eyes. Pain, anger, disbelief. It was the same storm that had raged inside him just days ago. Finally she spoke, her voice steadier than before. "What exactly do you have in mind?" Ryan leaned back slightly, studying her. He needed her to be fully in this, not just as an accomplice, but as someone who wanted revenge as much as he did. "We make them suffer the way they made us suffer," he said, "not just by exposing them, but by tearing their world apart piece by piece." Samantha exhaled, her fingers drumming lightly against the table. "Brandon thinks he's untouchable. He's always been like that. Cocky, reckless, and now I see why. He thought I'd never find out." Ryan nodded. "And Emily, she played me for a fool. But that ends now." Samantha looked at him, her lips pressing into a thin line. "All right, I want in, but I need to know, how far are you willing to go?" Ryan smirked slightly, but there was no humor in it. "Far enough to make sure they regret every single choice that led them here." She held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. "Then let's begin." The first step was to strike when they least expected it. Ryan and Samantha planned meticulously, ensuring every move had maximum impact. They started small, subtle manipulations that would eat away at Brandon and Emily's perfect little world. Samantha had access to Brandon's accounts, his emails, and his work contacts. She leaked just enough confidential information to put his career at risk. Nothing obvious, just a slow drip of problems that would make his bosses question his reliability. Ryan, on the other hand, played the long game with Emily. He continued to act like the devoted husband, watching her closely, feeding her a false sense of security. But behind the scenes, he laid traps, placing unfamiliar perfume on his clothes, letting her find a lipstick-stained napkin in his jacket pocket. Doubt was a powerful poison, and he wanted her to taste it. And then, the real destruction would begin. Neither Brandon nor Emily had any idea that the people they had betrayed were now working together, plotting their downfall. It was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. The first signs of destruction came quicker than Ryan expected. It started with Brandon. One morning, Samantha sent him a simple text. "Check his company email." Ryan accessed the inbox using the login information she had given him. As he scrolled, a particular email caught his attention. An official warning from Brandon's boss regarding a potential security breach. Someone had anonymously tipped off the company about irregularities in his work reports, prompting an internal investigation. Ryan smirked. Samantha had played her part flawlessly. Brandon's career, which he had built with arrogance and entitlement, was starting to crumble. But the best part, he had no idea who was behind it. Meanwhile, Emily was beginning to unravel. Ryan had perfected his act, coming home late, letting his phone buzz with unknown numbers, and conveniently stepping away to take private calls. He left just enough breadcrumbs for Emily to start suspecting him. One evening, as he stepped out of the shower, he found Emily sitting on the bed, staring at his phone in her hands. "You've been acting different," she said quietly, her fingers gripping the device tightly. "Who's been calling you?" Ryan arched a brow, feigning confusion. "What are you talking about?" She tossed the phone onto the bed. "I saw the missed calls and the perfume on your shirt. You never wear that scent." Ryan shrugged, grabbing a towel. "Maybe I just wanted to change." Emily's lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, doubt flickered in her eyes. Not just suspicion, but fear. "Good." Ryan leaned in, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "You trust me, don't you?" She hesitated, then nodded slowly. A lie. But she had no choice but to believe it, just like he had once believed her. That night, Samantha called him. "It's working," she said, her voice edged with satisfaction. "Brandon came home furious. He thinks someone at work is trying to sabotage him." Ryan chuckled. "Let him think that. He deserves worse." There was silence for a moment. Then Samantha spoke again, softer this time. "And Emily?" Ryan looked over at the woman sleeping beside him, his wife, his betrayer. "She's starting to break," he murmured. Samantha exhaled as if savoring the thought. "Good, because this is just the beginning." In the following days, everything unfolded according to plan. Brandon grew irritable and short-tempered under work pressure. He began suspecting his colleagues, even arguing with his boss. His workplace was slowly turning into a nightmare. Samantha continued her assault. She anonymously sent emails to HR, providing evidence that Brandon had been using internal documents for personal gain. Within a week, Brandon was summoned for an urgent meeting. "He's about to get fired," Samantha texted Ryan. Ryan smirked. Another piece was falling into place. As for Emily, she was growing more anxious by the day. Ryan noticed how she started checking his phone when she thought he wasn't paying attention. Their conversations had become tense, and at times she looked at him with suspicion. One evening, as Ryan stepped into the living room, Emily suddenly asked, "Are you cheating on me?" The question came sooner than he had expected, but that only proved their plan was working. Ryan feigned surprise, raising an eyebrow. "What? What are you talking about?" Emily crossed her arms, her voice trembling. "I saw you change your phone password. You've been coming home late. Your clothes smell like perfume." "I'm not stupid, Ryan." Ryan stared directly into her eyes. "So what do you want?" "To check my phone?" Emily bit her lip, clearly tempted. Ryan tossed his phone onto the table. "Go ahead. If you think I'm like you." Emily's face paled. She didn't reach for the phone, only stared at it as if it were a trap. "Good." Ryan stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. "Do you really think I could betray you, Emily?" His tone was deep, carrying a weight that made her shudder. I, I'm just worried," she stammered. Ryan smiled, but his eyes remained cold. "Then don't be." He turned away, leaving Emily frozen in place. She was afraid, and that was exactly what he wanted. That weekend, Ryan and Samantha met again. "He's been suspended from work," Samantha said, satisfaction evident in her voice. "Now it's just Emily left." Ryan nodded, pouring them both a glass of wine. "Soon. She's already suspicious, already scared. Now all she needs is one final push." Samantha leaned back in her chair, her gaze sharp. "Then we'll shove her straight into hell." The night was colder than usual, the air heavy with anticipation. Ryan sat in his car, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the steering wheel. Across the street, Emily's black SUV was parked outside Brandon's apartment. She had fallen right into the trap. Earlier that day, Ryan had left his phone unlocked on purpose. He made sure Emily would see the name on the screen. Samantha, accompanied by a simple message. "We need to talk. Meet me tonight." He can never find out. Emily had taken the bait instantly. She had barely spoken a word to him the rest of the day, her mind racing with paranoia. By evening, she had grabbed her keys and left, thinking she was the one uncovering a secret. But in reality, she was walking straight into destruction. Inside Brandon's apartment, Emily paced anxiously. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded, her voice sharp. Why is your wife texting my husband? Brandon frowned, clearly unprepared for this. What are you talking about? Emily pulled out her phone, shoving the screen in his face. Brandon read the message, his jaw tightening. Before he could respond, the door burst open. Samantha! Her eyes burned with fury as she threw an envelope onto the table. You lying piece of shit! Emily and Brandon froze. Slowly, Emily reached for the envelope, her hands trembling. As she pulled out the contents, her breath caught in her throat. Photos, dozens of them, of Brandon, with other women. Not just her, many others. Some taken at clubs, others in hotel rooms. Dates scribbled on the back, overlapping with the very nights he had been with Emily. She wasn't special. She was just another name on his list. You think you're smart, Emily? Samantha sneered. You think you're the only one? Emily's lips parted, but no words came out. Her legs felt weak, her entire world crumbling. Brandon, however, remained silent. He knew there was no way out of this. Then Ryan stepped inside. Emily turned to face him, her face pale. Ryan. His expression was unreadable. Calm. Cold. I hope it was worth it, he said simply. Emily shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. Ryan, please. Save it, he cut her off, stepping closer. I just wanted to see your face when you realized you were nothing more than a game to him. Emily turned to Brandon, desperate. Tell me it's not true. But Brandon only scoffed, shaking his head. You were fun, Emily, but that's all you ever were. The final blow. Emily stumbled back, her entire body shaking. Ryan, please, I love you. Ryan tilted his head slightly, as if studying her. Then he smiled, a slow, cruel smile. No, you don't. And with that, he turned his back on her, walking out the door. Samantha followed, her head held high. Emily collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Brandon merely poured himself a drink. Outside, Ryan inhaled the cold night air, letting it fill his lungs. For the first time in weeks, he felt free.